And so the satraps made something up, which foreshadowed the people who made stuff up about Jesus to try and condemn him. And then they had the ultimate in injustice, to try and blame Daniel for something he did that was right, so they could get rid of him, which foreshadowed the injustice of the trial of Jesus. And then you've got the lion's den, which foreshadows, work with me here, Daniel was thrown in the lion's den unjustly. God spared him and brought him out, which foreshadows the resurrection. Again, the resurrection. So that when Jesus rose from the dead, they shouldn't have been surprised at all, because they should have said, well, that happened with Jonah and it happened with Daniel. So God is in the business of raising people from the dead. All of this to say two things. One is that God gave us foreshadowing so that when his Son, the Savior, came to the world, we could say, oh, that was the one who the Old Testament talked about. That was the one who was supposed to come. That was the one who was supposed to come to be sinless. That was the one who was supposed to come and be treated unfairly. That was the one who was supposed to come, who was going to be put to death with an unfair trial. And that was the one who was going to rise again from the dead. I get it. It was foreshadowed. So the first point is that God knows what's going on. God has an idea what's going on. He said, here's what's going to happen. You know how he knew what was going to happen? Because he does it. He's in charge. I am so thankful that God is in charge. He demonstrated over and over and over again throughout the Bible. He demonstrated over and over and over again that he not only knows what's going on, but he's in charge of what's going on. One of the reasons that I am thankful for that is because Vicky got reelected. And as an innocent bystander to that nut house, I worry about her. But God is in charge. And God is going to do cool stuff. And Vicky gets a front row seat. And I get a second row seat. The first thing we find out from foreshadowing is that God's in charge. The second thing that we find out from foreshadowing is that as we watch God bring his plan to pass, as we watch Jesus come into the world, as we watch Jesus accomplish his purpose and do his thing and take care of his people over and over and over again, I can go into this Christmas season and beyond knowing that he's going to take care of me. That when somebody shows up suddenly to help me, that's been foreshadowed over and over again. I was telling the guys in Bible study about our experience on when we went for a walk and locked the keys in the car. And we were in a hurry because Vicki had our Weight Watchers meeting in Orleans in minutes. And it was going to work out perfectly if we come back from our walk, jump in the car, race home, change our clothes, and takes off for the meeting. We come back from our walk, beat on the doors of the car. I don't know why I did that. I was beating on it, pulling on, you know. I knew the lock was pretty solid. But it was wonderful, just wonderful to look into the car and see the keys to the car on the front seat. And you see, at that moment, I have to go back to foreshadowing. I have to go back to foreshadowing that we're talking about this morning. I have to go back to foreshadowing of how Jesus has taken care of his people down through the years, and he's taken care of me down through the years, and he's going to get Vicki to her meeting, as impossible as it seems. And an unknown person shows up. At that point, that was not a pet peeve of mine. Somebody that we had never met. Somebody that we didn't know. He drove by and said, "Do you need some help?" And we said, "Well, yeah." He gave us a ride home. Vicki changed her clothes, jumped in my car, and runs off to the meeting, was only 5 minutes late. And then this unknown person gave me a ride back to my car with the spare keys. That's the importance of foreshadowing. Not just because when the Savior is born, when the Savior comes, when the Redeemer comes into this world, we know that that was going to happen because it was foreshadowed all the way through. Including the things that happened to him, which we see foreshadowed in the book of Daniel. But that same foreshadowing says, God is going to take care of me. God is going to take care of you as you look to him. You may be 5 minutes late. I'm not going to promise everything. He's going to take care of you. This Christmas time, as you hear all the Old Testament stories which foreshadowed the coming of the Savior, be reminded that that foreshadowing is also for you. That God will take care of you as you look to him. Let's pray. Father, I thank you for all the foreshadowing you do, so that when Jesus comes, we're not surprised. So that when Jesus dies, we're not surprised. So when Jesus rises again from the dead, we are not surprised. So that when he points out that his friend Daniel said he was coming again, we will not be surprised. I thank you also that in that foreshadowing you have foreshadowed your personal care for us, so that we need not be surprised when you bring people to help us, when you help us yourself, when you make such a difference in our lives, when you take care of us when things are impossible. Father, I pray for anyone here today who is dealing with an impossible situation. Help them to hear that you're foreshadowing. Trust you for the answer. help us to see and watch all the foreshadowing in your word day by day, that we may trust you moment by moment with what you're doing in our lives. We ask in his name. Amen.